All right, press record.
Hey, everybody. We've got a lot of information coming at you and not a lot of time. Basically, Luke found a vampire this week, and we're going to be digging into the mind of a vampire to try to make heads and tails of it. So Luke's going to share the meeting info, and we're going to do our best to interview a vampire.
So kind of like last time with the superhero person, but obviously now it's vampire. Don't know what to expect. Talked to her a little bit. Didn't think it was going to happen. But
again, we don't know this person. So whatever they say is not a reflection of Interestinggg.com and all of our affiliate companies' beliefs. Chances are she's going to be a great straight shooter, great person.
Dry February.
Yeah, right.
How you feeling after yesterday?
Like hangover wise or like financially?
Financially.
Emotionally? Financially, I'm feeling a little bit lighter. Like I've lost some weight. Not feeling very happy.
I mean, you'd think $500 on the Chiefs was enough. No, you went and just put down like 17 prop bets. You just couldn't stop.
Hey, you gotta spend money to make money.
You're not wrong.
That's the difference between us, Luke. I don't get upset about money. I don't get upset about it like you.
And you're the better man for it. You really are. Because I just live in my own fucking hellhole of nothing.
There's nothing you can do to like create money. Like all you can do is just go make more money. Whenever I lose money, what I want to do is I'm just like, fuck. How do I gotta get more money. I gotta make more money somehow. How do I do this? But there's nothing you can do. You just go make more of it.
Yeah, that's where I'm like, if I lose money, it's gone forever. That's it.
No.
It's stupid. It's such a dumb way to think about it. How's the beer? It's going to be at 38.
Not bad.
Or I mean 48. It's at 46.
Well, do you want to look at the numbers?
Yeah. Dude, I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect here. Because I'm definitely afraid of haunted houses. I don't fuck with them.
She said she's working on joining.
Okay, what's her name?
Audrey.
Oh, boy.
Just say the thing you said to the guy. Like, hey, we're interested in stuff.
I wish I had a script.
But you're good at that. I'm definitely going to leave.
Don't leave.
What are the numbers, Dave? What the fuck?
You said she was working on joining.
I know, but go through the numbers.
All right, I'm going through the numbers.
Jesus, dude.
Luke and I are a little out of practice here.
That's the last.
It's been about 14 days since Luke and I have spoke. We had a little bit of a fight, a little bit of a fallout. Basically, Luke liked the Bucks, I liked the Chiefs, so friendship.
I rooted for the Chiefs.
Holy shit! 9 sessions, 30 minutes. Luke, these might be the best numbers we've ever seen.
What is that? What's the time frame? Last 7 days?
This was the last 14 days.
Those are fine. 26 minutes? Who the fuck's listening?
Somebody sat down and fucking banged out a few episodes. 26 minutes. 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 26 min 6 people did.
There's no rhyme or reason to any of this.
We're up 1,576,000%.
I wish that was my Robinhood account. You know?
Dude, even better. This is our real life account.
This is our attention span. Fuck, man.
That's a
That's
huge
great news.
increase, dude.
What?
That's a huge increase.
Yeah, that's never happened. We've never had people stay that long, have we?
Let's see where they're coming from. We got one in Chicago. Ooh. Sprechen Sie Deutsch, bro.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch? No.
We got a German one out there.
No. No.
What's wrong with Germany, dude?
Yeah, German's all right.
That's weird, though. Those are the only two. One in Germany, one in Chicago. Oh, man. Sprechen Sie Deutsch.
She's typing.
Oh, nope. I thought for a second that I thought we had 3 people in here, but we don't.
It says camera is starting. Stand by. Okay, I think she's joining. Audrey. I feel like I've aged 10 years.
You look like you're trying out for like the NYPD or something.
I look fat.
No, like you're going through their obstacle course.
The gray crewneck. I feel fat. I have no hair left on my head.
You look great, Luke. I'm losing all my hair.
I have no hair on my head.
Except for my beard.
Your beard looks good, man.
I'm growing it through all of tax season. So I've got till March 14th or 15th.
I grow a patchy beard and then I shave.
All right, showtime.
She here?
I believe so.
Hello?
Hello.
Audrey?
Yep.
Hello, how are you?
Hey. Sorry, there took a few minutes for everything to warm up, and doesn't look like my camera's working yet.
Well, that's okay. No worries.
Hey,
This is
Audrey.
Luke speaking. This is who I've been talking to you for the last couple weeks.
Okay.
And then we got my friend Dave here.
Yep.
Hey there.
I can see both of you easily, but apparently my
Oh,
computer
good.
is.
Good.
Well,
All
we'll
right,
give you a little bit of a background here. I'm not sure what Luke has talked with you all about, but basically, Luke and I get together on Mondays and we run a podcast called Interestinggg. And the premise of it is we just talk to people we don't know or talk about things that we don't know about, and we just try to understand them. And Luke came across your guys' Facebook profile or the page that it was, and thought it would be interesting to talk with a vampire, which is not something that we do every day. So
There you are.
fun to have you on. There she is. How are you?
Computer. Finally, the camera kicked in. I think it needed to power up a little bit.
Perfect. All
So
right.
yeah, that brings us here. And I think, we'll just sort of have a conversation. We'll ask you about you and just probably find pockets of interesting things to talk about. So,
Okay.
does that sound good to you?
That sounds fine.
Cool. So, Luke, do you have anything to kick it off with, or?
Well, I'm kind of wondering, and I don't mean like I'm never trying to off like most of how I'm coming off is going to be from ignorance, obviously, just because I don't know.
Yeah.
When in your life did you was there a transition to where you are now? Have you always, resonated with the idea of, well, I guess we haven't really had let you talk about it yet, but how would you categorize yourself in terms of, a vampire?
Okay. Well, where you first contacted me was on a group that I'm an admin on, which is called Vampire Community, which tries to get together various different people on different, shall we say, fandoms in some ways about vampires. It's people who love vampire books, vampire fiction, but also people who are role-play vampires that play the various games and are members of various role-play games. There's also what's called a vampire lifestyler, somebody who just likes the look and everything. You know, basically it's a goth who goes heavily to vampire. Sure. And then there are also living vampires, and these are people who, vampire is sort of the best word to call it because culturally it just shorthands everything. More or less comes under a heading of general otherkin. That gets, so these are people whose identity you feel like inside you're something else. You're not quite, you don't quite resonate with the, you know, the average human experience. You feel oftentimes like there's something deeper going on. And going back to specifically vampire, we call it an awakening. At a certain point, you start to realize this, whether you come across an image in a book or you read something or you see a movie, you come across something that makes you suddenly, it resonates. It's like, this seems familiar. This seems right. So we call it awakening. And there are stages of awakening. And the first stage is that initial stage where you just sort of like, this is something, and it's more than just this is cool and I love this. It's more than a fandom. It's like something that goes deeper. And that's the first stage of awakening. The second stage of awakening is when you start to realize what inside you that is resonating with. And that's when the vampire within, or if you are, you know, various otherkins, and there's so many categories of otherkin. You know, this is where it goes from basic cosplay or lifestyler into something where you go, no, this is actually who I am.
Yeah.
And that's when the more the living vampires transcend from lifestyler into vampire. And then, yeah, go ahead.
So it's not to say that like, I'm just thinking, like what you said about shorthanding it as vampire just makes it easier for people to understand. Is vampire, correct. Is that just a blanket term for like heavy, like you said, sort of gothic, or is it like a vampire is a whole vein?
When you call yourself a living vampire, it goes past just the gothic, the look.
Sure.
And there are a lot of living vampires who don't look at all like vampires. I mean, you know, obviously I'm a goth, vampire goth, and therefore I look like this. But there are a lot of vampires that you walk by them every day, you'll never know they're a vampire.
And what separates a living vampire from somebody who's just into the fandom of it?
There is, there is you discover that there's a certain need that you have, an energy need that isn't always given to you by regular, how do I put that? You need things that have red meat to them. You need to be in places where you can take in the energy of the people around you. That's where the vampire comes from, is we need life energy. We need to be around something that we don't generate in ourselves like other people. And that's where it's a difference between a lifestyler and a role play, and becomes something that's a little more of an actual existence thing.
And just to clarify, you are more on that existence side.
I am a living vampire, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And how, I guess, yeah, that's why I don't want to sound like I'm offending. Did it start
Don't
at a
worry,
certain...
I'm very hard to offend. I've heard all of it.
Sure.
We're genuinely interested. We're not coming from a place of like poking fun or anything like that. We're trying to understand.
Okay.
But
when I've done this before, people go all over the place. It's fine. You can't offend me.
All right, fair enough. So I guess where was there that awakening that you were kind of talking about for you? Was that a thing you were born with? Or is that something you came into at a certain age of your life? How did that work out?
Okay, most people come to it at a certain point. Usually, when they, a lot of times it's when they see their first vampire movie. Right now, because we're such a media thing, a lot of times it's when they see their first vampire movie. But for me, my family is different overall. Not from a Christian background. I'm not from, we were a very isolated group. My family came to America to escape a lot of things, so tended to stay isolated. So we have a different way of looking at things. So otherkin is something that my family has always recognized generationally. So it was kind of known when I was born that I was different. So I've always sort of known it. It's always been something that was just there. And there's a lot of things that are different about me, not just being a vampire. That goes with my family line. So I've kind of always had that knowledge. So I didn't have an awakening like most living vampires do. That makes me different. So I will tend to speak more generically about it because I'm trying to speak of the general experience more than mine specifically in that sense.
Got you. Okay, fair enough.
So is this you every day, all day? I mean, you wake up.
This is how I look all the time. These don't come out. I had these done.
Oh wow!
Wow.
So they don't come out.
How is that like eating and everything? Is it affected it or just an adjustment?
They're mine. Yeah, they're there now. They leave an interesting bite mark in a sandwich.
And then like just day to day, is it like you said, people go all over the place with it? Is it like people are stopping you and like talking to you, or do they seem afraid of you, or like how's your day to day?
Sometimes people can be shocked at first, but I think there are enough goths around that people just kind of go, oh, look, it's a goth. But then the next thing goes, oh, cool, you've got a great look. Can I get a picture taken?
Right. Yeah. Cool.
Japanese tourists are the craziest.
What's that?
Yeah.
Japanese tourists are the craziest.
Oh, for wanting pictures.
I live in San Francisco. I don't know if Luke told you. I'm in San Francisco here.
Oh, cool. I lived there for a little bit on Gary Street out there.
Yep.
Yeah, I know all about Chinatown there. That was I had to cross through it every day to get to school. So it's like a very crowded central part of the city. So I can see what you mean.
There's a huge manga thing and stuff about vampires in Japan. So if you get a cluster of Japanese tourists coming, they will just they want pictures. They got questions. They have all kinds of things. They live on Facebook or whatever,
Yeah. So is there is there people who are mean about it? Would you say? Or
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything as us who are completely ignorant to it? Is there any message or anything that you would want to share?
Well, it's never a good thing to approach anybody with, and it doesn't matter what. If they've got a look going on, if they've got a thing that's theirs, don't come up to them and go, why do you have to look this way?
Right. Yeah. That's just a shitty person if they're approaching people with hate.
Yeah. Well, what's wrong with you? I don't know what's wrong with you.
Right.
But I think a lot of that comes from everybody wants to be able to express themselves. And so many people are afraid to, that when they see somebody else doing it, it causes, that feeling of I'm not good enough inside of them. So they feel like they have to attack it. And I'm just don't come at me. Dress up however you want to dress up.
Right. Yeah. That's cool.
So get a cat down here. Keep looking down.
What? So, let's see. How do I word this? What's some of the people, the everyday people who have their ideas of vampires?
Mm-hmm.
What's some of the cliche stuff that is there stuff that you do resonate with? That those run of the mill idea of a vampire? Is there stuff you don't resonate with? Stuff that you'd call a truth? Stuff that obviously is false? How does
let's start with first thing. I always get the garlic jokes.
Yeah.
Always
okay.
get the garlic jokes.
Yeah.
I love garlic.
Right. That's great.
But I don't know if you saw in the group recently, we put through one of these Facebook posts that says, this is a propaganda started by vampires so that their victims season themselves properly.
There you go.
Yeah, not a problem with garlic. I personally have a problem with sunlight, but that's because I have xeroderma pigmentosum, which means I have no pigment to protect myself from the sun. So that's just a big ball of radiation. I will get radiation sickness if I'm exposed to too much sunlight. I don't tan, I burn, and then I end up in the emergency room.
Yeah.
So that's for me personally. And that varies among living vampires. Some people have a sun sensitivity, others don't as much. I also think that depends on if you are not getting enough red meat and iron and life energy into you. Everything is a problem, and sunlight can be pretty harsh on anyone. So that is varying degrees on that one. I work at night. I am online all the time. I'm very much a night owl. So I do have a coffin that I sleep in. I built it myself. If you look on my Facebook page and look in the coffin build, you will find the photographs of it going together. But that's because I am asleep in the daytime, and there's always noises around it. It just is a great way to close in and not be woken up. And I'm a goth. I think it's cool.
Yeah, right.
I dress in all black. I look like this. This is part of me. I would look like this regardless. There are vampires who put on the look as well. And that's because they came through the lifestyle or the role play as they came in, or came to the goth as they came in. But there are others who you'd never know they were a vampire watching them, coming down the street. They don't sleep in a coffin. They don't dress up like this, but they do have still the needs. And you will find that living vampires identify in two ways. They've got branches, which each one, it depends on how you learned first to what they call feed, how you first learned to take care of this deficiency. Some people found it through red meat and blood. Yes, blood, red meat. I'm Scottish in background, so I love black sausage. That's where I get a lot of it. Others, they will call themselves psi vampires, and they get it through just being in the ambient energy that a living person puts off, being around, and they will feed off of that. I have found that the further they go, the more they find out that they feed both ways. It's just you identify with what you first learned. So the Sang vampires think that that's the only way to feed. They're wrong. They will eventually find the way to feed the other way. And the same way with the Psi vampires. They'll find that they're going to need the red meat. They're going to need things that have blood in it in order to get what they need as well. You can't get it all from only one source.
Yeah.
So if you have an iron deficiency, you're not going to get it all from one place. You have to make sure there's plenty of iron in your system.
So how do vampires in vampire society view humans, like regular people? I say regular just because I'm not a vampire. I'm sorry. How do they view humans walking around? Is it as like a source of energy, just strictly as basically like we see cows in the field?
No. Well, there are people who like to put that on, and it's part of the whole ambience and the thing. But honestly, it's just you don't have some of the difficulties we do. For me personally, I just view it as also like you're a person who doesn't have XP. You can go out in the sunlight and it feels different to you, but that doesn't make you lesser or different or anything like that. You're just different than me in some ways, but that doesn't mean that we don't also have lots of things that we could possibly talk about in common,
Right. Still a similar experience here.
But there are also a lot of things that you won't understand, unless we sit down and explain. And even explaining, I have friends who have known me for a long time and who know I'm a vampire who still don't always understand, because it's just certain things that it's difficult to understand if it's not your experience.
Right.
Again, like the XP. How do I explain to you what sunlight feels like to me?
So is there like
like to you?
Is there like a hierarchy in vampire society? Like, do you have a secret society, would you say, or is it?
There are a lot of different secret societies. There are a lot of different groups. Some of them are secret. Some of them are not so secret. Some of them you can actually go onto Amazon and buy the books that have been published by certain leaders and find out exactly how their particular society works. Like anything, get a social group together. They're social groups. They're basically social groups. You get a group together and they'll form their own hierarchy. Because people are looking for something that brings us together, that makes you feel not alone. people will group to these, and then you just find the one that you fit in best. If you don't fit in with what, like, say, Father Sebastian says, go look for somebody else. If you don't fit in under Michelle Bellinger, you know, you'll find something that does fit in. That's what our group is online, the vampire community group I have. I have two groups. I have one that is a vampire only group, and only vampires can go into there. And it tries to remove away from the politics of the others, just so we can talk about things without getting into the flame outs and the screamings and the stuff like that. And then there's the vampire community group where living vampires and lifestylers and role players and just plain fans can just talk about the things we have in common. You know, just liking the whole, you know, your favorite books, your favorite movies, your favorite this, you know, that kind of stuff. And share information so that we don't have as much problems anymore. Because one of the big problems with online communities is you have the role players who don't understand that a living vampire and a role player are not the same thing. So you get role players getting into vampire groups and trying to enforce their role play game onto a group that's completely different than the role play game. And they don't understand each other. And so that's where you get a lot of the fights. That's where you get a lot of the conflict and the drama that are in vampire groups, is that stuff going on. Because each group doesn't realize what the other one is talking about.
Like what they think like one's making a choice and the other one isn't really choosing it. It's like it's who they are.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, I can see how that could cause some friction. What else?
Well, have you ever are there people that you've met throughout this, you know, that I obviously are also vampires, that are there extreme cases of people, like, obviously I don't know if that's like negative is the right word, but have you ever met people that, you know, are malicious in any way, or kind of like
you get that in every group. I mean, you know, and the problem with any kind of society that comes to
might have got you on mute there for a second.
I think we lost her. Let me message her.
She's cool. I mean,
yeah.
I think what we're learning with a lot of these is that they're literally just another person.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
I think it would be tough, honestly, like to like.
I thought she was wearing makeup. Like is she saying that's her skin?
I think it's makeup, but I do think her skin is very fair, is what I gathered. I think the toughest part for me would be the teeth.
Yeah, dude, how they get them shaved, or I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I feel like I'd bite my lip. Oh, yeah. She's back.
Hey!
Hello.
At least the audio is back. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Oh, you're good.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
No worries.
Well, what I was saying is anytime you get a group where there's a certain amount of insular and people are forming together about something that they all understand and other people don't understand, you will always find people who come in and try to take advantage of that. Predators will find a place where people are vulnerable to being manipulated. So yeah, they're everywhere. I mean, you'll find it in this group, you'll find it in any gamer group, you'll find it in like any group like that. You will find people who've come in who maybe not even part of the group, you know, by interest. They're just coming in like, I can find something here that I can abuse, I can take advantage of. So, you know, predators will always find a place to find vulnerable people. That is a fact. And it is that it happens in the vampire community as well. And part of the problem with the vampire community is there's so much language in the books and fiction that lends itself where it's a little hard to detect whether they're just role playing and putting on a front or whether they're actually a danger. So, you know, it's a little difficult, but, you know, it's not tolerated, but it's just hard to smoke out a lot. And when it does show up, it gets kicked out pretty quickly.
Has there ever been like actual, again, this is kind of a vague question, but like, would you even call it criminal activity, like a vampire committing, like I'd go as far as like a murder, you know, you know.
Those vampire murders you hear about, a lot of times those people aren't even in the vampire groups because there's something about them that's not they don't actually get a member of the groups. They don't join in. They don't join in because they don't actually fit in, and they are not wanting that. So when you hear somebody who's like done these murders and they've called themselves a vampire, they're often a loner, not even part of a vampire group, not part of any of the societies, and of course it makes the group look bad. But it's the same thing as when you have like Richard Ramirez, the killer who claimed to be a Satanist, not a part of any Satanist group at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But, just basically a shocking thing to say,
Yeah, because like, I don't know, when I think of like a vampire group, the immediate thought is they're gonna bite my neck and like drain my blood, and I'm like, like the Hollywood version of vampires. So
I
don't know. I think the societal probably thought.
Yeah. Well, nobody thinks that clown groups are spawning, serial killers, but John Wayne Gacy was a clown. He was a professional clown. So people don't go after it's not those people are those people. It wouldn't matter what they were calling themselves or what their identity was. They're still they are a killer. They're going to be a killer, whatever group they've gotten, whatever they've decided their look is or their thing is. And a lot of it's just the shock value, especially when you come to people who claim to be Satanists or vampires.
But it's it's like an overall positive community. Like it's something that's happy, and like you're supposed to be just being who you are and spreading like positivity.
It's group support. It's coming together, going, oh, this, or I need that, or particularly now during COVID, a lot of times vampires, the isolation is keeping us away from the thing we need most, which is life energy. That's why we go out to clubs or go out and do this and do that, because we get together where there's a lot of energy up in places.
Mm-hmm.
So,
are you able to identify other vampires without like, is there something non-physical that you can identify a vampire through?
Most living vampires say that they can actually tell another vampire. Sometimes it's like a gaydar in that, it's iffy at best. Some people, their gaydar is really good, and some people, they just wish everybody was gay, It's like, you only think you're just saying he's gay because you want him to be gay. But, I think there is something different about us that makes us that we can spot each other. I think you need a little more experience being around other vampires before you start to really hone that and go, oh, okay, that's what I'm feeling. So
like, are Luke and I'm just curious, are we vampires, or is it a hard no? Like you can immediately tell.
It's a hard no as far as being a living vampire.
Okay.
But, I would say that you guys both being very open will be, you will find it easier to make friends and get answers from vampires, because there's a certain openness that is sensed, you're just curious and you want to know, and you may make jokes afterwards, which is fine. I make jokes too, but
no, that's not how we do it. But when you popped off there for a second, we were just talking about the things that we thought would probably be the hardest. And so it's like, well, I think that, the teeth might be tough for me, but only because I've never experienced that. And like, I'm sure it's just like anything, like I have a retainer thing in that I've gotten used to over time. So,
well, I had these done because I had the costume ones. And I kept getting irritated when I would pull them out and I wouldn't look like me anymore, Yeah. So I got these done. They cost $1,000 each, and I got 10% off for paying up front.
Nice.
All right.
There is a dentist here in San Francisco. He does the teeth for everybody.
Very cool.
So you can get them and you can get gold ones or silver ones or natural. And yes, I know how saying natural and talking about fangs is a contradiction in terms, but
no, sure. What's the here? This is, I guess, this is a real. I don't know. This would be a question, I guess. I don't know.
Come on, Luke, just put it out. We're past it.
What's the truths of the consensus of the human blood thing? What actually is that very based on real vampire groups? How what is that? What's the for people who have like us, like who just we have our preconceptions.
There is a strict code among vampires, and that is one thing that once you get in, you're immediately taught, and that is consent. No means no, and it doesn't take a lot. There is no actual danger of a vampire draining your life out of you. For one thing, do you have any idea how much blood is in your body?
Yeah, right.
Go get that in water and try to drink it all at a shot. Okay, that part of the disease.
We just might, because we tried to drink a gallon of egg.
What that is,
It's too tough.
But, there are, and there's forms that are done because, anytime you do blood play in whether it's in the fetish community, wherever it is, you have to make sure that it's being done safely. You have to make sure that the conditions are sterile. At the most I've seen it done is, like a half shot glass out of somebody, and that's it.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's often done in that way because everything else runs risks. Putting your mouth on an open wound runs a risk for the person, and et cetera and so on. Donors have to be screened. You have to make sure that they're clearing of bloodborne diseases. And there's a lot that goes through before you actually have a donor. But there are other sources of blood. For one thing, rare red meat works fine.
Yeah.
Sausages, a lot of societies have blood in certain foods. It's like most European cultures have a blood sausage or a blood of some sort. Black pudding is what it's called in Scotland.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways to get that, and make sure you're getting red meat. A vegan vampire is a very, very weak and sad thing because they're not getting.
This is all that life force that helps with your. That's
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And the closer it is, that's why rare meat is better than well done, because the closer it is to fresh, the better, obviously. Yeah. And if you have a donor, it's nice, and it usually makes everything else easier. But you still can get it through other sources.
So you've mentioned life energy a couple times. Is that, like, I'm trying to understand is there a religion behind being a vampire, or is it separate?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. Not at all.
What's like, how do you, just you specifically, actually, how do you view like the afterlife? Is it because like do you claim, like, do you feel like you're on the same life wavelength as a normal human? Are you know what I mean?
That gets into a question that's outside of being a vampire, honestly.
Yeah.
Though, as far as I have found, because I work as a spiritual counselor as well, and one of the things I do heavily is otherkin, people who have alternate identities or, alignments, to help them through a lot of those things. But, I work as a spiritual counselor, just general, not just for otherkin. But one of the things I have found is that vampires seem to be able to tap into that immortality idea.
Mm-hmm.
One, we often don't look our age. Two, a vampire will always lie about their age. So never ask a living vampire their age. They'll lie. Younger vampires tell you they're older. Older vampires will make up whatever they feel like telling you at the time, depending on how they're going to react. Vampires lie. That's probably true across the board. But they tend to be able to tap into previous lives, reincarnation. So that immortality idea in the vampire community, in the living vampire community, comes from our ability to tap into and see back through different lifetimes, different incarnations. So I think most vampires do believe in reincarnation simply because we can see it. It's not a belief. It's like, do you believe in hats? You can see a hat. It's not a belief. It's a hat.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Where does all the bat correlation come from? Where do you reside on that stuff? Like,
I love bats.
You love bat. Okay. Yeah. But like, the whole vampires turning into bat, where does that all start?
that's fiction. A lot of that you can blame on Bram Stoker directly.
Okay. Okay.
You know, a lot of things. Folklore is different throughout different European countries, and there's a vampire in a lot of folklore just everywhere.
Yeah.
The Egyptians had vampire folklore. The Chinese, you know, it's all over. There's different forms of vampire. They have different words for it, but it still comes down to vampire. A lot of the popular fiction has ideas that came most of it from Bram Stoker. You know, and it's either taking Bram Stoker's and using it or contradicting it, but in some way they're responding to Bram Stoker's Dracula. Because things that predate that are very different. If you look at the Varney the Vampire, which was the Penny Dreadfuls, or Polidori's Vampire, or Christabel, or any of the other fiction that existed before Bram Stoker, very different in many ways. Bram Stoker sort of made the standard that everybody now reacts to.
How about
like,
the Twilight series?
Like the movie The Wolfman. Sorry?
Was the Twilight series well received, or is that just
you know, right now, and it's still unfortunately on it, Twilight is cool to hate.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like, you know, Nickelback.
It's one of those things that people bash it because, I mean, people who've never seen it bash it, you know? The books are, I was an English major. The books are hard to read because they're just badly written. The grammar, the sentence structure, everything. It's just bad writing. It's just bad writing. So they're hard to read. But the movies, if you stop hating Twilight for a second and watch Bela Lugosi's Dracula, watch how atmospheric it is, how the pacing is, everything, and then watch Twilight, you'll see a lot of similarities. It's atmosphere, it's mood. Bela Lugosi never wore fangs. There are no fangs in that movie. You never see the fangs ever in that movie. You know, so it kind of goes back to the more atmospheric, the more romantic, the more like there's an undercurrent going through it. I've seen the movies. I like them. You know, they're not my favorite vampire movies, but I like them. Of course, there's things in there where you go, really? But there's things in every movie that makes you go, really, for a second. You know, you can pick a movie, any movie, and there's going to be a scene in there where you go, really? So, Vampire Sparkle, what the hell was that? I don't know. Trying to make up something different. Everybody who does vampire fiction wants to come up with something different. Anne Rice needed to come up with something different. You know, everybody has to come up with something that makes it theirs. This was her thing. Sparkle, sound like.
Well, I
expected
when Luke told us that there was a vampire interested in speaking, I honestly imagined somebody a lot more like melodramatic and like negative and like, I don't know.
What we do in Shadows moment, right?
Monotone, yeah, something like that. But you're like a very positive person who has like just a normal outlook, and like, so that's cool. That's like why we're doing it, is to understand and connect the dots for people. So thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. I'm not sure.
Why I always agree to interviews too is to try to get people to know that, you know, the media overdoes everything.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a machine. That's what they do. But no, this was cool. I hope that you had fun. We had fun having you, but I think we'll let you get back to it, and Luke and I will get back to it. But it was great to meet you.
Yeah, anytime. If you have anything else you want to talk about or anything else you want to ask, anytime.
No, absolutely. We'll definitely reach out.
Okay.
Have a good night.
All right. Thanks, Audrey.
You too. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Where's my mouse? You there?
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really nice.
Yeah,
I enjoyed her more than whatever, Seth. I mean, Seth was fine, but I just kind of liked her.
Yeah, no, she was really cool. I think she was actually really smart too. Obviously, has done her research on vampire stuff, and I mean, I feel like you would kind of have to. You'd get all of those like questions like from people like us all the time, and
I'm just sitting here like, what's the deal with blood? And
well, at a certain point, I was like, fuck it, like this is what I think people think, and
that's what I was trying to be, and that's what I am. I'm coming from like vampires are this. in our heads. What do you have to say about that?
Right, yeah. Respond.
Yeah, go now. That was cool. That was wild.
Sort of the hierarchy question in my head, I pictured like Dracula as like their number one. Like basically like they had a president just like we have a president, but that it turns out that's not the case.
No. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Fuck, she didn't really talk about Dracula that much.
Yeah, she kind of did.
Kinda, yeah, it's true.
I think the author, she kept saying, I think that's who wrote Dracula.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway. It was good. I loved it.
Dracula author, Bram Stoker. Yeah, that's the one she said.
I keep thinking of fucking
Cool.
Margaret Shelley, but Margaret Shelley's Frankenstein.
All right, well, this was the Vampire Week. We're going to cut it here so that way we can bring you nonsense from our brains next week. But we're not done here, people. We're just getting started. All right.
Quick break to make you all forget about us, but we're definitely still here.
We wanted a quick spike in numbers, so we took a few weeks off.
You fuckers forgot. We're back.
Dogecoin to the moon. Bye.
Beep.